going to read it. What?
What your reaction is to today with the GOP releasing a statement saying that because of the Supreme Court decision, they actually think they won?
They need to be drug tested because this isn't a win or lose, okay? Let's understand what happened here. We, the Democratic Party, saw an extraordinary set of events last week that indicated to us that there were massive problems in the vote tabulation. We went to a judge who could issue an order seizing those ballots and holding them until there was some assurance that a vote tabulation could be held in a correct fashion. When we did that, the Richland County Election Commission suggested to us they'd like to go forward with the count and suggested that they have that supervised by the State Election Commission. Now, there is no, and we would agree with the Supreme Court's order today, there's no legal authority to do that, but it was a consent order between us, the Democratic Party, and the people we sued, the Richland County Election Commission. And so that process went forward until the Republican Party stopped it. We would have had this over a week ago, but for the Republican Party stepping in. I don't know what they're afraid of. This was going to be an election tabulation overseen by the State Election Commission, who's appointed by Nikki Haley. So I'm somewhat shocked. I mean, this is to them, everything's about winning and losing. We're concerned about making sure that the votes are counted in an accurate fashion. This ain't about winning or losing. This is about making sure the people of Richland County have a confidence level in the numbers and the results that are generated by their election commission. And we're ecstatic with today's ruling. Next.
What happens next, and when, and where?
Well, my understanding is that the SLED is delivering the ballots, if you will. I mean, some of them electronic, some of them are paper, back to the Richland County Election Commission by 5 o'clock today. They should have already been delivered. And further, the count will start, as I understand it, tomorrow morning.
Do you have a time?
No, because I'm not running the show. I would suggest you contact Ms. Crum, who's chairman of the Richland County Election Commission, and she should be able to fill you in on that.
Do you know what the timeline is for the certification process, or no?
I do know that the Supreme Court in their order indicated it has to be done by 5 o'clock on Friday. Now, that doesn't mean it will necessarily take till 5 o'clock on Friday. They could have it done by noon tomorrow, for all we know. And we know they began that process before the Republicans asked the Supreme Court to halt it. So I don't know whether they'll start from the beginning, whether they'll do it all over. That's up to them. All we want is an assurance and a confidence level that whatever result comes out is accurate. That's all we want. Everybody's vote ought to be counted.
So the ruling today is what you really wanted from the very beginning?
Absolutely. It's what we asked for. We want a confidence level that it's going to be tabulated in a accurate fashion. That's all we want. And we want scrutiny of it. And I'm sure, based on what I see here today, there will be scrutiny of that process.
What can you say was the most disappointing part of this entire process for you? Because I know on election night it was a long line, some of the voters being disenfranchised, and then also the fact that, you know, you had to fight with the GOP, who you think are, I guess, delaying the inevitable.
Well, I mean, I think what's disappointing is all of us were candidates. This office was full of volunteers for weeks, making phone calls, same thing over at the Republican headquarters. And then to get to Election Day, and you know, my first experience on this a week ago today was to go over to Logan School, Ward 4, where there were hundreds of people in line at 8:30. Some of them have been there since 6:30. There were 3 machines, 2 were broken. And you know, one of those machines is supposed to be, or at least one machine is supposed to be used to take out and vote people that are disabled and handicapped. And they couldn't do that because it would shut down the line on the inside, so handicapped people were being carried inside. The toughest part of this process ought to be persuading people to vote for your candidate, not making sure that the election process is run efficiently and correctly. And so we spent all day, Election Day, not trying to get our voters to the polls, but just trying to make sure that people could vote, period. And we know hundreds, if not thousands of people walked away. Remember, it's not a holiday. Most people had to be at work, so they tried to vote before work. That didn't work out. They tried to vote at lunch. That didn't work out. And after work, you know, if you were willing to stand in line till 10 o'clock at night, And this, you know, this shouldn't be like the Survivor TV show. You shouldn't have to go run the gauntlet to cast your ballot, and that's what happened. And that, to me, is disappointing, and I hope that the legislative delegation corrects it for the future and finds out what went wrong.
So folks are calling for a whole new election.
No, I don't think that's, I mean, based on what I know, I don't think that's necessary.
There's some questions about conflict of interest with some folks in the on the election, head of the election. There's been some accusations tossed around there. Are you concerned about that?
Well, you know, I'm a old prosecutor. I was a solicitor here, and I'm a trial lawyer. Accusations are cheap. You know, evidence is, if there's some evidence of that, sure, but all I've heard are accusations. I know that one of the reasons we went to the judge and got the ballot seized were that we were seeing aberrant, you know, absentee ballot results. We knew that machines had not been closed out properly. We knew that there were all kinds of technical problems. I'm not alleging any corruption. I'm not alleging any malfeasance. I'm talking about purely inefficiencies in the process.
Are you confident this team could run another election?
Well, two things. One, the next time they do that, I won't be chairman of the Democratic Party. I'll be standing in line, and if I have to stand in line for 4 hours, I'll be raising hell. And by the way, I will say this, there's no pattern. People are trying to say, well, they held machines out here. I mean, everything I see is that it was painful everywhere you went.
Are there any plans now, or are you guys planning to make any plans as you look forward to the next election to try to figure out how we can keep this from happening again?
You need to talk to Darrell Jackson, the legislative delegation. That's their job, not mine. I mean, this is, you know, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are two teams in a football game. Y'all need to be talking to the refs. You know, we go do what we, and that's the frustrating part is on election day we couldn't do that. We had to worry about. We had to send people out. I mean, normally we'd have people knocking on doors till 7 o'clock. Amanda, we pulled off 200 people to do nothing but be, what do we call them? Comfort teams to go stand with the lines and say, please don't leave. Here's some water. Here's a donut. Don't leave. And, I mean, that's just crazy that we have to pull off hundreds of people to go do that on election day rather than have them knock on doors before 7 o'clock reminding them to go vote.
What do you say to voters whose time was obviously wasted on election day and now they're still having to wait to see what their votes yield? What do you say to them, and what kind of recourse is out there, do you think, for them?
Well, I mean, recourse, they're going to get a chance to vote on most of the legislative delegation again within 24 months. And if this isn't resolved, then I would suggest they vote for somebody else, Democrat or Republican. That's how we resolve things here. I mean, you know, we just had a presidential election where some people thought that President Obama wasn't doing a good job. Apparently he was. Any other questions?
Do you think the Kirkland-Finley-Joe McCullough race could result in a different race after tomorrow?
I have no idea. I mean, and that wasn't the motivation. Wasn't to the motivation wasn't to turn that race around. The motivation was we saw things in the results that came in that they were posting that didn't make sense.
Such as?
In one box they reported that Kirk Finley got almost 300 votes and Joe McCullough got 0. That would be inconsistent with any other result from any other precinct or any other box.
Which box?
It was the absentee box. And we know that we had over 200 people we had talked to that said they voted absentee for Joe McCullough before the election. I mean, we actually talked to voters. So
their votes should have shown up in that ballot.
We believe so. So there's something wrong with that. Now, whether they were counted in another box, but what was represented to us was that was the absentee box.
So basically you're saying that it was a bigger picture, not just the McCullough-Finley race that you guys were...
Yeah, we think, I mean, there are other indicators that there were, and again, my understanding is when they began the count last week, they found over 20 machines which had not been properly closed out, which would mean they would not have gotten the results properly on the, what do they call those things, the PBDs,
PEB.
PEBs. They would not have properly been downloaded to the PEBs, so when they loaded them at the county to count them, they would not have been counted correctly. Maybe, you know, that helped our candidates. Maybe that helped their candidates. But that's not the issue. We all ought to be for making sure that we get accurate results. And there ought to be a confidence level. People shouldn't think that, that press people, you know how they are, shouldn't think that, shouldn't have doubts about the credibility or integrity of the results. You know, they can do that in Russia. They can do it in South America, but not here, not in the United States of America.
What's your understanding of the mechanics of what's going to happen tomorrow with respect to the votes?
I mean, I don't know what the mechanics will be tomorrow. I mean, they will. I don't know whether they'll go back and start over, whether they'll use what they did the other day as a base. I don't know. And by the way, there are, as I understand it, enough experts involved in this now that whatever they do, I'm sure, will be technically correct.
And you called this election last Tuesday disappointing. If you have hundreds, maybe thousands of people being turned away, aren't they being disenfranchised in a manner of speaking?
They are, yes.
And that's a constitutional violation?
It could be.
And is Lillian McBride, who was over the voter registration elections office, is she in any way responsible?
You know, I don't know, because I mean, all I know is what y'all write. I mean, and no offense, but, you know, I'm not willing to state any opinion based on what you write. No, I mean, seriously now. Until there's some objective inquiry, and that would be what the legislative delegation is going to do, I can't really voice an opinion about Ms. McBride.
Do you think there should be more transparency with respect to people who are on commissions and possible relationships to who they might be appointing?
I think there's probably enough transparency now, as far as I know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the allegations are. There are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. I'm not one of them. I think, look, this is like going to get your car fixed, okay? There's a process, a diagnostic thing they plug in, and then they say, we got to fix this, this, and this. This is not, they've been doing this for 200 years in this country, 200 and something years in this country. It's hard to believe that you can't get it right now, except in Florida. Do we have a result in Florida yet? Huh? We got them beat. They still haven't declared that one, have they?
Who did it?
What?
They
When?
did.
When
Friday.
did
Friday or Thursday?
I was saying.
The president?
they? Yeah.
Who was over the weekend?
Oh, did they? I missed it. I watched it for a while. It didn't seem to matter much.
Do you think this count is going to reinstill the confidence that you were talking about among voters?
It will with me. And I think if people like me and Matt Moore and others, Chad Conley, no matter what the results are convinced it was conducted appropriately, I think we can reinstill some confidence there. And then, of course, the delegation needs to find out what to do about it. I mean, you know, if 250 machines were held back, you know, I think we need to know why. Those people over in Ward 4 that were standing in line could have used a couple more machines over there. So, you know, there are a lot of questions to be answered, but before we ever get to those questions, we need to get the votes counted. And that's why we brought the action we did, and that's why we're happy with the Supreme Court's ruling today. Anything else? You done with me?
So,
Yes,
You
sir.
have a phone interview now.
What now?
You have a phone interview.